The smug, slobbering alien fools of the Galactic Council howled with derision when they saw the lone human standing before them. But their mocking laughter soon turned to panicked shrieks as humanity's true power was unleashed. Christian Murray stood rigid in the center of the cavernous auditorium, a tiny figure engulfed by a churning sea of extraterrestrial diplomats and representatives. Thousands of eyes, some compound, some reptilian slits, some glowing orbs, all fixed on the young human soldier, with a mixture of contempt and amusement. "This primitive ape dares to defy the council," screeched Nesso, the bulbous Lurian ambassador. His gelatinous purple form quivered with rage as he stabbed a pseudopod at Christian. "These humans attacked and destroyed one of our warships without provocation. They are rabid animals that must be caged. I demand this creature's immediate execution." A chorus of jeers and hisses erupted from the assembled aliens, their voices united in a cacophony of disdain for the upstart human race. They shouted curses in 100 guttural tongues, dismissing humanity as weak, ignorant savages, unfit to share the stars with their enlightened civilizations. Christian endured the verbal barrage in silence, his jaw clenched so tightly it ached. He knew that the Lurian ship had fired first, that he and his team had acted in self-defense. But none of these bloated, hateful creatures wanted truth. They wanted submission, obedience. The council's tentacled speaker thundered his gavel, his beady eyes flashing with malicious glee. "The human will divulge Earth's military secrets and defense codes immediately. Then humanity will pay reparations and accept Lurian occupation as penance for their crimes. Refusal means annihilation." Christian felt a cold fury building in his gut. He thought of his homeworld, his family, 7 billion lives hanging in the balance. These vicious alien despots wanted to grind humanity under their heels, to enslave a proud people for the crime of refusing to kneel. In that moment, he knew there was only one path forward. The soldier squared his shoulders and met the speaker's gaze. "No." The alien snarled, slime dripping from his twitching mouthparts. "Then you have sealed your species' fate, ape. God sees—" A deafening boom cut off his words as the far wall exploded inward in a blinding flash of light and shrapnel. The aliens screamed, scattering in panic, as a dozen armored human soldiers burst through the smoking rubble. They moved with trained precision, mowing down the guards in devastating volleys of blaster fire. Christian strode calmly through the chaos to join his comrades, then turned back to the quivering, terrified council. "That prototype weapon you scorned? We have 100,000 more like it, primed to erase your stinking homeworlds from the stars. Humanity bows to no one. Push us again and we'll push back 100-fold." The soldiers vanished in a crackling blur of teleportation, leaving the council to gape in slack-jawed horror at the message carved into the auditorium's blasted wall by precise plasma blasts: Terra Invicta. Earth unconquered. Years earlier, deep beneath the Earth's surface, Christian Murray gasped for breath as he sprinted through a dimly lit concrete tunnel. Sweat poured down his face, stinging his eyes, but he blinked it away and pushed harder. Behind him, a dozen other young recruits pounded after him, their boots thudding against the rough ground. "Move it, maggots!" Sergeant Hawkins roared from up ahead. The grizzled veteran had a voice like a chainsaw and the demeanor of a pissed-off grizzly bear. "You think the aliens are going to wait for you to catch your breath? They'll gut you like fish and use your entrails for garlands." Christian gritted his teeth and dug deep, his lungs burning as he forced himself to keep pace with Hawkins. The sergeant was a legend in the underground facility, a hardened warrior who'd fought in a dozen secret conflicts against extraterrestrial threats. If anyone could forge them into a force capable of protecting humanity, it was him. Days turned into weeks, and the brutal training continued. They learned to shoot, to fight hand-to-hand, to hack alien computer systems and pilot exotic vehicles. Christian absorbed it all like a sponge, driven by a fierce determination to defend his people. In the close-quarters combat drills he excelled, his reflexes lightning quick as he dodged and struck. In marksmanship, his aim was true and steady, and in the tactical simulations, his mind raced ahead, anticipating the enemy's moves and devising cunning strategies. Slowly, surely, Christian rose to the top of his class. But the true test came during a live-fire exercise deep in the facility's twisting tunnels. Christian's squad had to reach an objective while evading a gauntlet of automated sentry guns. They were almost there when a gun malfunctioned, swiveling wildly and pinning them down with a hail of plasma bolts. Christian's comrades were trapped, unable to advance without being cut to pieces. In that instant, Christian knew what he had to do. Ignoring the shouts of his squadmates, he leapt from cover and charged straight at the sentry gun, zigzagging to dodge its deadly shots. His heart hammered in his chest as he closed the distance, primed a grenade and hurled it with all his strength. The explosion tore the gun apart in a shower of sparks and shrapnel. Christian's ears rang from the blast, but he hardly noticed as he waved his squad forward. They completed the objective in record time. In the debriefing room, Sergeant Hawkins pulled Christian aside, his weathered face unreadable. "Reckless, Murray. You could have gotten yourself killed pulling a stunt like that." Christian braced himself for a blistering reprimand, but Hawkins surprised him with a tight nod. "You've also got guts, kid. The kind we need for what's coming." The sergeant led him into a small, dimly lit room lined with monitors. On the screens, grainy footage of alien warships and strange chitinous creatures played on a loop. Hawkins' voice was grim as he explained the truth. The alien threat was far greater than the public knew, and this covert program was humanity's best hope for survival. "They think we're weak, ripe for conquest," Hawkins growled, "but we're going to show them the error of their ways. We've got weapons and tech they've never seen before, and soldiers like you to wield them." Christian felt a chill run down his spine as he watched a simulation of an alien invasion. Cities burning beneath the onslaught. His resolve hardened into iron. He would do whatever it took to keep his people safe. And so he volunteered for the Vanguard, the program's most elite unit. The training grew even more punishing, the technology more advanced. His body was pushed to the limits and beyond, augmented with cutting-edge genetic enhancements until he was faster, stronger, deadlier than any ordinary human. Finally, after months of preparation, Christian stood on the ramp of a stealth dropship, clad in midnight black armor and armed to the teeth. His mission? To infiltrate a Lurian weapons factory and destroy it before the aliens could use it to churn out even deadlier tools of conquest. As the ramp lowered and the wind whipped at his face, Christian felt a sense of grim purpose settle over him. This was what he'd been made for, the threat he'd sworn to face. The aliens had started this war, but he and his fellow vanguards would finish it. He leapt from the ramp and plummeted towards the factory, his squad fanning out behind him. They hit the ground running, weapons spitting fire as they charged towards the surprised alien guards. Christian lost himself in the rhythm of combat, his body moving on instinct, honed by countless hours of training. They fought their way into the heart of the factory, planting explosives on the reactor core and key structural points. The Lurian defenders threw everything they had at the human strike team, but the vanguards were too fast, too well-equipped. Christian grappled with a hulking alien guard, his augmented muscles straining as he grappled and struck. With a final, brutal blow, he brought the creature down and snapped its neck with a savage twist. As the last charge was set, Christian and his team sprinted for the extraction point, the factory shuddering and groaning behind them. They barely made it to minimum safe distance before the complex erupted in a towering fireball, the shockwave nearly knocking them from their feet. Breathing hard, Christian watched the flames consume the alien facility, knowing that they'd struck a heavy blow against the enemy. But even as satisfaction welled up inside him, a grim realization tempered it. This was only the beginning, a single battle in a war that had been raging in secret for years. The Lurians and the other hostile races would strike back harder than ever. But humanity would be ready for them. Christian and his fellow vanguards would make sure of it no matter the cost. The aliens had started this conflict, but humanity would finish it and emerge unbroken and undefeated. Terra Invicta. In the aftermath of Christian's explosive revelation, the Galactic Council erupted into utter pandemonium. Representatives screamed at each other in a cacophony of alien tongues, shoving and gesticulating wildly. Neso slammed his pseudopods against his console, his shrill voice rising above the din. "The humans have a fleet," Neso screeched. "Warships with planet-killing weapons. We must mobilize our forces immediately." As the council devolved into shouting matches and recriminations, Neso slipped away to his private chambers. His communication console chimed with an incoming transmission encrypted in the highest Lurian codes. Neso accepted the call with a trembling appendage. The flickering hologram coalesced into the cloaked figure of a Lurian spy, his features concealed. "My lord," the spy hissed, "I have dire news from Earth." Neso leaned forward, his bulbous eyes widening. "Report." "The humans have constructed a vast armada in secret," the spy said. "Warships equipped with weapons beyond our worst fears. Singularity cannons, antimatter torpedoes, planet crackers. They can annihilate our worlds." Icy fear gripped Neso's core. The Lurian fleet, once considered the galaxy's mightiest, suddenly seemed fragile and utterly outclassed. They could never hope to match the humans' firepower in open war. Not yet. An idea kindled in Neso's cunning mind. "We must buy time to build our strength," he muttered. "Request a diplomatic summit with the humans, a neutral station where we can negotiate." "And when they are there," the spy asked, "we strike?" "No, too risky. We distract them with talk while our agents gather intel on their capabilities and plant a virus to disable their ship's systems." "It will be done," the spy vowed. The transmission winked out, plunging the room into darkness. On Earth, Christian and his superiors pondered the Council's invitation with wary skepticism. "It's a ploy," Admiral Stark growled. "Lure us in, then slit our throats." Christian nodded. "Agreed, but it's also an opportunity. They're scared, off balance. We can use that." "Then we go," the Admiral decided. "But we prepare for a first strike on their turf, catch them with their guard down." As Christian boarded the shuttle to the summit station, his armor's comm pinged with an incoming message. Sergeant Hawkins' grizzled face flickered onto his HUD. "Watch your ass out there, Murray," he warned. "My gut says this meeting stinks worse than a Xerxian's breath." Christian grimaced. "Roger that, Sarge. We'll be ready for anything." The station loomed before them, a sprawling metal torus spinning slowly against the starry void. Christian and his team strode down the ramp, weapons close at hand. A phalanx of grim-faced council guards escorted them to the conference room. Neso and the other leaders were already waiting, seated around a massive crystalline table. Christian noted their postures, the unease in their alien faces. They feared humanity, and rightly so. "Welcome," Neso began, his tone dripping false cordiality. "We have much to discuss in the spirit of cooperation and—" Christian's gaze sharpened on a small blinking device affixed to the table's underside. Instinct screamed a warning. A bomb. He moved on pure reflex, hurling the table up and away. "Get down!" His shout was swallowed by a thunderous roar as the world dissolved into smoke and shrieking chaos. Christian coughed and blinked away the smoke stinging his eyes as he staggered to his feet amid the wreckage of the conference room. Alarms blared, and emergency lights bathed the scene in a hellish red glow. His squad, battered but alive, picked themselves up and took stock of the situation. The bomb had done its grim work. Neso and several other alien leaders lay dead, their broken bodies strewn among the rubble. The rest were badly wounded, groaning and twitching in pools of their own blood. "Sir, life support's failing," Sergeant Hawkins barked, consulting his armor's readouts. "We've got maybe 30 minutes before the air runs out." Christian gritted his teeth. There was no choice. They had to abandon the station and return to Earth. He turned to his squad, his voice hard as steel. "Leave the wounded. We're getting the hell out of here." They moved quickly, stepping over the bodies of the fallen aliens as they raced for the shuttle bay. Christian's mind raced ahead, already planning for the battles to come. The Lurians would retaliate for this, and the other races would see humanity as a threat. War was inevitable now. As they boarded the shuttle and blasted away from the dying station, Christian watched the stars streak past the viewports. Somewhere out there, the Lurian fleet was mobilizing, hungry for human blood. But they had no idea what they were in for. The shuttle touched down at a secret military base deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Christian and his squad were rushed into a briefing room where Admiral Stark and the other top brass waited with grim faces. News of the attack had spread like wildfire, and the public was in an uproar. Some demanded immediate retaliation against the Lurians, while others pleaded for restraint and diplomacy. But Christian and his superiors knew that half measures would only invite more aggression. They had to strike hard and fast, to secure humanity's dominance before the aliens could recover, and they had just the weapons to do it. "We hit the Lurians where they live," Admiral Stark growled, jabbing a finger at the holographic star map. "Wipe out their fleet, their command centers, their Emperor's own palace. Show them and everyone else that nobody fucks with Earth." Christian nodded grimly. It was a bold plan, but they had the element of surprise and the technological edge. The Lurians wouldn't know what hit them. The human fleet assembled in a hidden star system, the most advanced warships ever built by human hands. Sleek destroyers, heavily armored battleships, and carrier ships bristling with fighters and bombers. And at the heart of the fleet, a massive dreadnought, armed with a singularity cannon that could rip apart a planet. Christian, leading an elite vanguard unit, would spearhead the ground assault on the Lurian homeworld. As the fleet winked into existence above the alien cities, Christian gave the order to attack. All hell broke loose. The human ships rained down a storm of missiles and energy beams, smashing through the Lurian defenses like they were made of paper. The alien ships fought back desperately, their hulls glowing with the heat of 1,000 suns, but they were hopelessly outclassed. Christian rode a drop pod down to the surface, the pod shaking around him as it punched through the atmosphere. He emerged into a scene of utter devastation, the once proud Lurian capital reduced to rubble and flames. But the aliens weren't finished yet. As Christian and his squad advanced through the ruined streets, they encountered fierce resistance from the Lurian soldiers, defending their home to the last. Plasma bolts crisscrossed the smoky air, and the screams of the dying echoed off the shattered buildings. Christian led from the front, his rifle spitting death with every squeeze of the trigger. His genetic enhancements made him faster and stronger than any Lurian, and his armor shrugged off their return fire like rain. Step by step, building by building, they fought their way towards the Emperor's palace, a towering edifice of black stone and gleaming metal. The Lurian guard threw themselves at the human attackers in a frenzy, but they were no match for Christian's skills and fury. At last they breached the palace gates and stormed inside, gunning down the last of the defenders. Christian kicked open the doors to the throne room, ready to confront the Emperor and end this once and for all. The Lurian ruler was waiting for him, a massive figure clad in ornate battle armor. He rose from his throne, drawing a crackling energy blade, and bellowed a challenge in his guttural tongue. Christian answered with a burst from his rifle, but the Emperor's armor absorbed the shots. The alien warlord lunged forward, swinging his blade in a blinding arc. Christian met him head-on, parrying the blade with his armored gauntlet and lashing out with a vicious kick. The two warriors dueled across the throne room, trading blows that would have shattered stone, neither willing to yield. The Emperor was strong and fast, centuries of combat experience guiding his every move. But Christian was driven by the indomitable human spirit, the will to protect his people no matter the cost. With a final, desperate effort, Christian seized the Emperor's blade arm and twisted with all his enhanced strength. Bones snapped, and the alien howled in agony as the energy blade spun away across the floor. Christian slammed his armored fist into the Emperor's face again and again, feeling bone shatter and blood spatter, until the alien's struggles ceased. The Emperor fell, and with him, the Lurians' hopes of conquest. But the battle had taken its toll. As Christian staggered away from the throne, he felt a sudden searing pain in his side. One of the Emperor's guards, in a final act of defiance, had fired a plasma bolt that had penetrated his armor. Christian collapsed, his blood pooling on the cold stone floor. Darkness crept in at the edges of his vision as his squad rushed to his aid. He heard their voices as if from a great distance, calling for a medic, urging him to hold on. But Christian wasn't afraid. He had done his duty, given everything to protect his people. As he slipped into unconsciousness, he knew that Earth was safe, that human courage and ingenuity had triumphed over the alien menace. The war was over, but the struggle was just beginning. As the human fleet returned to Earth, leaving the shattered remains of the Lurian Empire behind, Christian lay in a hospital bed, his broken body slowly healing. The scars of the conflict were everywhere, in the empty seats at the mess hall tables, in the haunted eyes of the soldiers who had seen too much death. But there was hope, too, in the laughter of children playing in the streets, in the way the civilians looked at the soldiers with awe and gratitude. Earth had emerged as the dominant power in the galaxy, but it was a heavy crown to wear. The other alien races, once so dismissive of humanity, now looked upon them with fear and resentment. Some even whispered of the human conquerors, the destroyers of worlds. Christian knew that the road ahead would be long and hard, that Earth would have to find a way to lead the galaxy into a new era of peace and cooperation. But he also knew that humanity would rise to the challenge, as it always had. From the first ape-like ancestors who'd picked up a bone and dared to dream of something more, to the men and women who'd fought and bled to claim humanity's rightful place among the stars, the human spirit had always triumphed over adversity. And as Christian looked out the window of his hospital room, watching the ships of the human fleet soar overhead, he felt a deep sense of pride and purpose. Come what may, humanity would face the future together, united in their determination to build a better galaxy for all. The Terran Dominion had been born in the fires of war, but it would be a force for progress and a beacon of hope in the darkness of space, and Christian would be there to lead the way, a soldier and a guardian, a champion of Earth and all her children. Christian drifted in and out of consciousness, his battered body slowly knitting itself back together in the sterile confines of the hospital room. The steady beep of the monitors and the distant bustle of the medical staff were the only sounds, a stark contrast to the deafening chaos of the Lurian palace. A chime from his wrist communicator jolted him fully awake. He blinked away the fog of painkillers and focused on the small screen. An urgent message from Sergeant Hawkins flashed insistently. "Murray, we've got a situation," Hawkins said, his grizzled face lined with tension. "The Lurian attack, it wasn't just them. They were puppets. We've uncovered intel on a group called the Void. Real bad news. They've been pulling the strings from the shadows." Christian struggled to sit up, ignoring the stabbing pain in his side. "The Void, who are they?" "Some kind of cabal of aliens, powerful ones. They're aiming to control the whole damn galaxy, and they see us as a threat. The Lurians were just their opening move." A cold certainty settled in Christian's gut. The war had been only the beginning, a mere prelude to a greater conflict looming on the horizon. If the Void wasn't stopped, all of humanity's sacrifices would be for nothing. "We need to act fast," Christian said, already swinging his legs off the bed. "I'm taking a team to infiltrate their HQ, get some hard intel on their plans." "You're in no shape for a mission," Hawkins protested. "You need to heal up." "No time," Christian grunted, ripping the IV from his arm. "Every second counts. I'll rest when the Void's dealt with." He gathered his most trusted soldiers, men and women he'd fought and bled beside, and they set out into the uncharted reaches of space. Their ship sliced through the Void, sensors straining for any sign of the enemy. Days blurred together as they pressed deeper into hostile territory, following a trail of whispered rumors and fragmented data. They skirted the edges of dead worlds and crept past alien fleets on patrol, always on the move, always watching their backs. A distress signal drew them to a remote asteroid belt, where they found a ragged band of Lurian rebels hiding out in the rocks. These were no ordinary Lurians, but outcasts who had rejected the Void's poisonous influence. "The Void is like a cancer," their leader said, her eyes haunted. "It infects everything it touches, twists it to its will. We tried to resist, but we were too few." She told them of a secret outpost where the Void's agents gathered, a fortress hidden in the heart of a dying star. Christian knew it was their best chance to strike a blow against the enemy. But the outpost was guarded by mercenaries, hard-bitten killers loyal only to the highest bidder. Christian's team fought through their lines in a series of desperate battles, leaving a trail of shattered armor and broken bodies in their wake. They breached the outer defenses and stormed into the fortress, ready for anything. But what they found there shook them to their core. The Void was no mere alien cabal, but a vast and ancient hive mind, a single entity that had spread its tendrils across the galaxy for eons. It had manipulated countless races, pitting them against each other in a never-ending cycle of war and conquest. And now it had set its sights on humanity, seeing them as the greatest threat to its dominion. The Lurians, the mercenaries, all of it had been part of the Void's plan to weaken and divide them. Christian and his team fought with every ounce of strength and skill they possessed, but the Void's power was too great. One by one they fell, until only Christian remained, bloody and defiant to the last. The Void's whispers tore at his mind, promising power and immortality if he would only submit. But Christian's will was unbreakable. With a final burst of strength, he activated the beacon hidden in his armor, sending a desperate message back to Earth. "The Void is coming," he gasped, his vision dimming. "It won't stop until we're all under its control. You have to find a way to stop it, no matter the cost." On Earth, the message was received and the gears of war began to turn once more. Fleets were mobilized, soldiers armed and briefed. Humanity would not go quietly into the abyss. The final battle raged across the stars, human ships and soldiers clashing with the Void's forces on 100 worlds. Christian's team, broken and bloodied but undefeated, fought their way into the heart of the Void's stronghold, a twisting labyrinth of living metal and pulsing flesh. At the center of it all, they confronted the Void itself, a writhing mass of stolen minds and shattered souls. It lashed out with psionic power, tearing at their sanity and their souls. But Christian had one last card to play. With a cry of defiance, he activated the antimatter bomb fused to his armor, the same bomb that he and his team had carried across the galaxy for this very moment. The explosion consumed them all, human and Void alike, in a blast of searing light and unimaginable power. The stronghold collapsed in on itself, the Void's screams fading into silence as its essence was scattered to the cosmic winds. The war was over, the galaxy saved, but the price had been high. Across 100 worlds, memorials were erected to the fallen heroes, those who had given their lives so that others might live. Christian Murray's name was among them, etched in stone and whispered in legend. Humanity had won its place among the stars, but it was a bittersweet victory. They had lost so much, sacrificed so much, but they had also learned the true depths of their strength, the indomitable will that had carried them across the light years and through the fires of war. And as the survivors looked out at the stars, they knew that Christian's spirit still watched over them, a guardian and a guide. The Terran dominion would endure, a beacon of hope and a bulwark against the darkness, for they were humanity, unconquered and unbroken, and they would never surrender. If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.